eat my food, my customers.
In the heart of Accra, where the market noise never sleeps and the sun feels like fire on bare skin, a young woman named Clara Mensah struggled to keep her small food business alive. Every morning before dawn, Clara lit her charcoal stove. Smoke filled her tiny shop. She cooked steaming rice, beans, and stew, praying silently. God, let today be different. Let customers come. But when the sun rose and the market grew loud, people passed her shop without stopping. They bought from other food sellers, women with brighter stalls, sharper tongues, or richer husbands. Clara sat behind her pots, sweat dripping, hope draining. By afternoon, flies danced on food that no one wanted. That day, her trouble came in the shape of a woman in a red dress. Mrs. Daniels, the wig seller, stormed into the shop, her voice shaking the wooden tables. "Clara," she shouted. "3 weeks ago, you came to my stall begging for a wig. You said you wanted to look good for your cousin's wedding. You promised to pay after 2 weeks. Now look at me, have I seen one Sadie? Not one." Clara's hands trembled as she wiped her apron. "Please, Mrs. Daniels, forgive me. Business is slow. Customers don't come. Just give me a little more time." Mrs. Daniels clapped her hands and hissed. "Business is slow. Your whole life is slow. Do I look like I run charity? You have 1 week. If I don't see my 100,000 Ghanaian Sadies, you will regret it. I will disgrace you in this market." Her words were sharp knives, cutting Clara's heart in front of neighbors and passers-by. People stopped to watch. Some shook their heads. Some whispered, "Clara again. Always owing, never paying." Before Clara could breathe, another shadow filled the doorway. It was her landlord, Mr. Johnson, his face stern like a carved mask. "Clara," he barked, "3 months' rent, nothing. Light bill, water bill, nothing. Did you see the quit notice I pasted? By Saturday, you and your pots will leave my house." Clara dropped to her knees, tears spilling down her face. "Please, sir, forgive me. Business is hard. Customers don't come. Give me just 1 more month, I beg you." But Mr. Johnson's eyes were like stone. "Promise doesn't pay bills. Saturday. My boys will throw you out. That is the end of the matter." He turned and walked away, leaving Clara on the floor, sobbing. That night, Clara dragged herself to her childhood friend Sandra's room. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her voice weak. "Sandra, I'm finished. My business is dying. Mrs. Daniels will disgrace me in the market. My landlord will throw me into the street. I don't know what to do." Sandra, tall and sharp-tongued, folded her arms. "Clara, stop crying. Tears won't pay rent. There is a way." Clara lifted her head slowly. "What way?" Sandra leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "I know a man. A powerful man. He helps people. If you follow his instructions, your food business will never be empty again. Customers will run to you. Money will flow." Clara shook her head quickly, fear in her voice. "No, Sandra. That's fetish. I don't want anything like that. I believe in God." Sandra scoffed. "God? Clara, open your eyes. Do you think those women selling food with lines of customers got rich by prayers alone? Do you think those boutiques in town run only on hard work? My dear, in this city, everyone has their secret." Clara buried her face in her hands. "But, mixing with such things. I'm afraid." Sandra placed a hand on her shoulder. "Afraid? Or tired of suffering? Look at yourself. Look at your shop. Look at your debts. Do you want to remain poor forever, mocked by everyone? Or do you want to rise?" Clara's heart pounded. The insults from Mrs. Daniels still rang in her ears. The landlord's threat stabbed her memory. On Saturday, you and your pots will leave. Sandra's voice dropped to a whisper. Think about it. Do you want shame, or do you want change? Sandra had been the only one by Clara's side since she lost her parents at 8. To Clara, Sandra's words carried the weight of blood. So when Sandra offered the secret of riches through a man in the shadows, Clara's heart wavered. That night, Clara lay awake on her thin mattress. The ceiling above her was cracked, the room dark except for a flickering bulb. She tossed and turned, whispering into the silence. What if Sandra is right? What if this is my only chance? But no, I can't. God, help me. What should I do? But no voice answered. Only the sound of rats scratching in the corner. And so, as the cock crowed in the distance and another hopeless dawn arrived, Clara's mind was torn between poverty and temptation. Morning came, but Clara's eyes were red. She had not slept. Every word from Sandra kept ringing in her ears. Do you want shame, or do you want change? At her shop, Clara stirred a pot of beans half-heartedly. Only 2 customers came all day. One complained the food had too much salt, the other asked for credit. By evening, Clara was broke, tired, and broken. When she closed her shop, she walked slowly to Sandra's house. Sandra was combing her long braids when Clara entered. Clara's voice was soft, almost ashamed. Sandra, take me to this man. Sandra's lips curved into a knowing smile. Good. You've chosen well. Tomorrow evening, when the market is quiet, we will go. The following night, Clara followed Sandra through the noisy streets of Accra. But instead of turning toward the market, Sandra led her away, past the bus terminals, past the bars and shops, until the city lights grew dim behind them. The air felt heavier. The streets were empty. They walked a long dirt road lined with tall trees. Crickets sang in the dark. Clara's feet dragged. Finally, they reached a small mud house at the edge of the bush. Its door was painted with strange white symbols. A single lantern flickered inside. Clara's heart thumped in her chest. Sandra, are you sure about this? Sandra squeezed her hand. Don't be afraid. Just follow my lead. She knocked twice. The door creaked open. Inside, the air was thick with smoke from burning herbs. Animal skins hung on the wall. At the center of the room sat a man in a long brown robe. His head was bald, his eyes sharp and glowing strangely in the lantern light. He spoke before Clara could say a word. You have brought her, he said, his deep voice rolling like thunder. Sandra bowed slightly. Yes, Baba. This is my friend Clara. She needs help. The man's gaze locked onto Clara. She felt her knees weaken, as if he could see every secret in her heart. Clara, he said slowly, you are tired of poverty. You want customers. You want wealth. You want respect. Is it not so? Clara swallowed hard. Her voice shook. Yes. The man nodded, as if he had been expecting her all along. Then you must listen carefully. Nothing is for free. If you want blessings from here, you must give something in return. A price must be paid. Clara's chest tightened. What price? The man leaned forward. His smile was slow and unsettling. From today, every food you cook must be defiled. You must mix your waste into your meals before you serve them. It will be transformed into sweetness in the mouths of your customers. They will never know. They will eat and return, again and again. Your shop will never be empty. Clara's eyes widened in horror. What? That's disgusting. How can people eat such a thing? The man's voice grew sharp. You asked for wealth. This is the path. Once you begin, you must never stop. If you stop, or if anyone discovers your secret, everything will turn against you. You will be dragged lower than the ground. Sandra leaned closer to Clara, whispering urgently. Clara, think. Do you want to remain poor forever? Do you want insults from Mrs. Daniels every day? Do you want your landlord to throw you into the street? Look at those women in jeeps. Do you think they got there by frying plantain on the street? Everyone pays a price. Clara's hands trembled. Sweat rolled down her back. She thought of her empty shop, the shame in the market, the rent hanging over her head like a knife. Slowly, her lips parted. I will do it. The man smiled, showing yellow teeth. He reached under the table and brought out a small clay pot, black with soot. He tapped it with his long finger. Take this. Begin tomorrow. Remember, never stop, and never let anyone know. Or you will pay with your life. Then he tied a black thread tightly around Clara's wrist. This is your bond. Break it, and you will be broken. As Clara and Sandra walked back toward the city, the night felt colder. Clara hugged herself, her steps heavy. Sandra looked pleased. You'll see, my friend. In a few days, people will bow before you. Poverty will be history. But Clara's stomach turned. She felt like she had swallowed fire. Her voice was a whisper, trembling with fear. What have I agreed to? The next morning, Clara stood in her tiny kitchen, staring at her pots. The smell of raw rice and tomatoes hung in the air, but her stomach churned. Her hands trembled as she looked at the black thread on her wrist. It felt like it was burning into her skin. She whispered, No, I can't do this. She almost packed her things and ran, but then she remembered Mrs. Daniels shouting in the market, Your whole life is slow. She remembered Mr. Johnson, her landlord, barking, On Saturday, you will be thrown out. Her throat tightened. I have no choice, she muttered. God forgive me. With tears in her eyes, Clara defiled the food for the first time. When she finished cooking, she carried the steaming pots to her stall by the roadside. Her heart pounded as she scooped the first plate of rice for a taxi driver who had stopped by. She turned away, afraid he would spit it out. Instead, he smiled broadly. Madam Clara, this food sweet past anything I've eaten today. Give me more stew. Clara froze. Before she could recover, another man walked in. Then 2 women. Then a group of schoolboys. By noon, there was a line stretching outside her shop. People were pushing and shouting. Give me jollof. Madam, quick, I'm late for work. 1 more plate, don't forget extra meat. Clara's eyes widened as she hurried to serve them. Her hands shook, but her heart raced with something new excitement. By evening, all the pots were empty. Not a single grain of rice was left. When she opened her money box, it was stuffed with notes. Clara sat down, her breath coming fast. She pressed the money to her chest. It worked, she whispered. It really worked. The next day, the crowd was even bigger. Drivers parked their taxis on the roadside. Market women left their stalls. Students came running after school. Clara's food, they shouted. Within a week, Clara's name spread across Accra. People said, if you have not eaten from Clara's kitchen, you have not eaten. One evening, Clara marched to Mrs. Daniels's stall. She dropped a thick bundle of cash on her table. Take it, Clara said coldly. And don't ever shout at me again. Mrs. Daniels gasped. Clara, where did you? But Clara had already turned and walked away, her chin lifted high. When Mr. Johnson, her landlord, came again to threaten her with eviction, Clara laughed. Don't worry, I don't need your dirty house anymore. I'm moving to East Legon tomorrow. The man blinked, stunned, as Clara drove away in a hired car, her bags packed with new clothes. But with success came something else, pride. She stopped greeting her old neighbors. She dressed in fine clothes, painted her lips red, and wore heels to her store like a queen. At work, she grew harsh. Her only worker, a young girl named Naomi, struggled to keep up with the endless stream of customers. "Madam, please," Naomi begged one afternoon, sweat running down her face. "These customers are too many. We need more workers." Clara snapped. "Lazy girl. I pay you well. Do your job. Don't complain." And always, before Naomi could serve food, Clara would lock herself in the kitchen. "Never touch the food until I've checked it," she warned. Naomi frowned. "But madam, what exactly are you checking?" Clara's eyes flashed. "Don't ask questions. Just do as I say." Naomi bowed her head quietly, but in her heart, suspicion began to grow. That night, Clara lay on her wide new bed in her East Legon apartment. She poured money on the mattress and let it rain on her face. She whispered, "I was born for this. Poverty will never see me again. Money truly stops nonsense." But somewhere in the back of her mind, she heard the voice of the man. "If you stop, or if they know, you will go down." Clara shivered. She pulled the money tighter against her chest. "No one will ever know. I will never stop." At first, people only whispered. "Have you noticed Clara's shop? Last month, she had no customers. Now see the crowd. Something is not ordinary here." Soon the whispers became open gossip. Even other food sellers in the market could not hide their jealousy. They marched to her shop one hot afternoon. "Clara," one of them said, folding her arms, "tell us the truth. How did you suddenly become the queen of this market? Last month your pots were empty. Now customers are fighting to eat here. What's your secret?" Clara turned slowly, her chin lifted high, her eyes sharp. "My secret?" she asked coldly. "It's simple. Hard work. Something you lazy women know nothing about." Another woman hissed. "Don't insult us. We know something is not right. Nobody gets rich overnight like this." Clara slammed a spoon on the counter. "Get out of my shop. Out, before I pour this stew on your heads. Go back to your miserable stalls and leave me alone." The women left grumbling, but the gossip only grew louder. And Clara, instead of worrying, grew prouder. "Let them talk," she told herself. "I am untouchable." Meanwhile, Naomi's suspicion grew sharper. She watched how Clara always locked herself in the kitchen before serving food. She noticed how no one, not even cleaners, was allowed inside during that time. One morning, Naomi decided to confirm her fears. She placed her phone on a high shelf in the kitchen, camera facing the pots. She pressed record and hurried out, pretending to be busy with customers. But Clara was smarter than Naomi thought. As she entered the kitchen, she paused. Her eyes scanned the shelves. Slowly, she spotted the small blinking light of the phone. She smiled to herself. "So, she thinks she can spy on me?" Clara picked up the phone, switched it off, and smashed it against the floor. Pieces scattered across the kitchen tiles. She laughed softly, shaking her head. When Naomi returned later, she found nothing but broken pieces of her phone on the floor. Her heart sank. Clara walked past her with a mocking smile. "Naomi," she said sweetly, "next time, don't bring toys into my kitchen." Naomi's face burned with shame. She wanted to ask, but she swallowed her words. She knew Clara had caught her. That night, she went home in silence. The next morning, she handed in her resignation. "I can't work here anymore," she said flatly. Clara shrugged. "Good. I don't need nosy staff anyway." But Clara was not foolish. She knew too many eyes were now watching her at the market. Every day, the gossip grew. Some customers whispered, "Her food is strange, but sweet." Others warned, "Something is not clean there." So Clara made a decision. She packed her pots, closed her stall, and disappeared from the market. Within 2 weeks, she reopened in a brand new location, near her fancy East Legon apartment. This time, it wasn't a small stall. It was a polished restaurant with glass doors, shiny chairs, and bright lights. People came in hundreds. Celebrities, politicians, rich businessmen. Clara's name spread across Accra like wildfire. Yet, even with so many customers, she never trusted anyone. She employed only 2 staff, 1 cleaner and 1 assistant in the kitchen. No one else. No one could get close enough to discover her secret. And every morning, before the first plate was served, Clara locked herself inside the kitchen. The ritual continued. Clara's new restaurant in East Legon was always full. Her food was praised as magic. Politicians, musicians, and businessmen drove in daily. Clara walked among them like a queen, her gowns expensive, her voice proud. But with success came suspicion. Some customers complained of sudden stomach pains after eating, though they returned the next day, craving more. A few murmured, "Something isn't normal with this woman's food." Inside, Ruth and Samuel also noticed things. Clara never let anyone near the pots once she locked the kitchen. She took out the trash herself late at night. And every time she cooked, she washed her hands far longer than normal. The crack came from within her own walls. One evening, Samuel was sent to fetch water from the back store. By mistake, he opened the wrong door. For a moment, his eyes landed on the small clay pot hidden in the corner of the kitchen. The stench made him gag. Clara spun around instantly, her voice sharp as a whip. "What are you doing here?" Samuel froze. I was looking for the bucket." Clara slammed the door shut. "Never enter this kitchen without my order again, do you hear me?" "Yes, madam," Samuel whispered, fear and suspicion battling in his eyes. That night, Samuel told Ruth quietly, "Something is wrong with madam's food. I saw a pot. It was not ordinary." Ruth frowned. "Be careful. If she finds out you are talking, you will lose this job or worse." The real trouble came weeks later. A wealthy businessman hosted a private party at Clara's restaurant. Dozens of guests were served her food. But the next morning, several fell violently ill. Hospitals treated them for food poisoning. The businessman was furious. He stormed back to the restaurant with health officers. "My guests are sick because of you," he shouted. "You call this a 5-star restaurant?" The officers demanded to inspect her kitchen. Clara tried to resist, but the businessman's anger left her no choice. When the kitchen door was forced open, the truth began to leak. The strange clay pot, the foul smell, the traces of her secret ritual, everything was exposed. Clara trembled. The officers exchanged horrified looks. The businessman pointed at her with rage. "This woman is a fraud. She poisoned us for money." News spread like wildfire. Angry customers gathered outside. Staff fled. Clara's empire shook on its golden pillars. The kitchen stank of smoke and shame. Health officers covered their noses as they bent over the clay pot. One whispered, "This is abomination." Another scribbled notes, shaking his head. The wealthy businessman who brought them roared, his finger stabbing the air. "This woman fed us filth. My guests are still in the hospital. She must be punished." From outside, angry voices swelled. Customers who once bowed to Clara now spat her name like poison. "She deceived us. She must pay." Ruth and Samuel slipped quietly through the back door, afraid to be caught in the storm. Clara stood frozen, her gown glittering under the fluorescent lights, but her hands shook as if she were naked in the rain. For months she had told herself she was untouchable. Now, with the pot exposed, she felt smaller than dust. The lead officer turned to her, voice firm. "Clara Mensah, your restaurant is shut down immediately. You are under arrest for endangering lives and violating public health laws. Anything you say will be used against you in court. Cold metal cuffs closed on her wrists. No, please. Clara cried, her voice breaking. It wasn't my fault. I only wanted to survive. Sandra pushed me into this. But Sandra was nowhere to be found. When Clara's calls reached her that night, Sandra blocked her number. The crowd outside surged as police led her out. Some spat. Some cursed. One woman threw sand at her feet. The same people who once called her Queen of Jollof now called her Witch of Food. At the station, she sat on a hard bench, the clay pot sealed in evidence bags. Tears streamed down her face. In court, the judgment was swift. Clara Mensah, the judge declared, you traded dignity for greed. You built wealth on shame. You are hereby sentenced and banned from running any food business in this country. The gavel struck like thunder. In prison, Clara sat under the dull sun, her once bright clothes replaced with a faded uniform. Her eyes were hollow, her lips dry. Other inmates whispered about her story, the woman who cooked disgrace for riches. She stared at her wrists where the black thread once Saturday. Her whisper was barely a breath. I should have chosen patience. Poverty is heavy, but shame is heavier. Back in the city, her name became a proverb. Parents warned their children. Don't be like Clara. Shortcuts will cut you down. And Ruth, the cleaner who once mopped her floors, summed it best when asked what happened. She wanted to be a queen overnight. Now she is a lesson forever. Greed may feed you today, but it will choke you tomorrow. True wealth comes from clean hands, not dirty secrets. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful African folktales. Tell us in the comments, do you think Clara deserved her downfall, or was she only a victim of desperation? And remember, sharing this video helps more people discover these lessons.